Cambridgeshire County Council is a partner in the international Sharing Stories, Sharing Life project funded by Erasmus+. The project uses life storytelling and reminiscing to reduce loneliness and isolation in older people, and to connect them with their communities and rediscover past interests and passions.
It was a real treat to spend time with Mike, who was my storyteller, and to have the focus completely on him and completely on his life story. And I loved hearing his stories. He was very engaging to listen to. I learned a lot about his life and journeys he'd made, places he'd visited that I would never have heard about otherwise. So it was a very rewarding experience, very educational, and also he made me laugh a lot and just made me smile a lot because he had a real sparkle in his eyes. So when I spoke to Mike, for a period of time he was in hospital, and he was by himself in a room. And if I phoned him up, he would be very happy to have conversation. As soon as he heard the words sharing story, he very quickly knew what the purpose of the conversation was about. And I think at a period of life where he was actually quite anxious and experiencing pain and not really knowing what was going to happen next in the present, it was really helpful for him to be able to talk about the past, because it was a safe place. He was in control of that conversation. He could think about easier, happier times, and it instantly took him to a better place, and I think provided a really helpful distraction at a time where it was quite tough for him being in hospital. I think we can learn so much about how other people have lived and how time has changed. I think it's really great to understand how different generations have experienced life. It can make us appreciate things that we've got even more, but also it just gives us insight into an older person's life, and it reminds you that somebody might be sat opposite you, incredibly frail, physically very limited, perhaps really anxious about life, but when you understand and know their story, you get that fuller picture of that person, and I think it can give them back their self-worth and their value, and really sort of lift spirits. So I think really valuable to do that listening. One of the other things I really liked about the Sharing Stories project was the way that it encouraged older people to really think back to things they've enjoyed in life. So, for example, with Mike, one of the things that brought him a lot of pleasure was always singing, but he hadn't sung in a choir or really thought about his singing much for a long time. And when he came out of hospital and I went to see him, he'd been telling me about his choir life, and how much he'd enjoyed it. And when I did see him after the hospital, he was sat with the record player on and he was singing along to some of his favourite choruses. And that brought me a lot of pleasure, but also I could see that it was something Mike was really enjoying again. And I wonder if we hadn't had those conversations, whether it would have triggered him to take that action. So it can really kind of refocus somebody's mind on things that have brought them joy.
I really felt at my worst when I lost my wife. Took a long time to sort of, I feel like a single person again now. I mean, I got pictures of her in there. They're all up the wall and upstairs. And my son done me, I've got a big memory board with all the pictures of the grandchildren, and it's just got the top memories are made of this. And but that was a sort of bad period. But now I've just got on with life now. And
you enjoy more than
oh,
the times
just the company of everybody at my age. I mean, it's a long day. Sundays, if I didn't have the boots out, it's awful. Whole day here. You can't get into a shop till about 10 o'clock. It's just nothing. You've got television all day. If you've got a day like today, television all day, living on your own, nobody to come and see you. Oh, it was excellent. She was so, well, we just sat here. I couldn't believe when nearly 2 hours had gone, and we just sat there and talked, and it was, yeah, it was really good. Oh, going back to Kathy, what was really lovely was that she spent time in China, and a lot of time, and so because I, you know, was I just bought a beautiful Chinese plate, and the game technology is beyond me. So it's got all the markings on the bottom, and she got one of these. Goodness knows how much it cost, telephones out or something. She takes a photograph of it, and then prints it and puts it all on the thing. I think eventually we found out this plate is suitable for fish and chips or something like that. We had a real good laugh about that.
Well, I'd just lost my husband, 12 months January, and then my daughter, or my granddaughter rather, rang up. She said Nan should have taken my mum to hospital. She said she'd got asthma. So I said, oh, they'll cure her, she'll be all right. Well, then in the afternoon, her husband rang and said, Mum, he said she's really, really poorly. He said, you can't come to see her because they don't allow anybody in. I said, well, that's strange. I said, because I never even saw my husband. I said, from the Thursday. And then, as I say, the next day, I was sitting in this chair, my daughter walked in, and she said, are you all right, Mum? And I said, yeah, I'm thinking a lot today. She said, well, Sheena died this morning. So I lost two. It was sad.
Yeah.
It really was.
I'm so sorry.
I admire that woman because I could start in the morning and I could work all the way around till tea time, just telling her these stories. And she was fascinated. She's a lovely, lovely lady. And when she rings up, she talks to me like a human being, like a friend we've known for years. I don't have to say, yes. It's, well, shall I tell you this then, and shall I tell you that? But the friendship to me was great, because sitting here all day, because my family, people kept saying, well, you've got a family. I said, yes, but I said, they're working. They've got to work to have a roof over their heads. And then at 3 o'clock in the winter time, you draw them curtains and you're living in a box. It was horrible. Though sometimes I was in bed at 5 o'clock. I wanted to do something on my own, and I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm if somebody had said, you've got a medal, it couldn't have been happier than what I'm doing now with the stories, because there's loads to come out. Even when they were children, I used to make up stories for them, because we couldn't afford a storybooks. And it was Percy the Penguin, and I think he's here somewhere. And my daughter brought me a penguin.